All right, it's 8:20 a.m. Chicago time on December 24th. Merry Christmas Eve to anyone who is celebrating. And with a few minutes here before market open, I want to review the interval flow results from the $500,000 out of the money call buyer interval flow filter that we set up in the latest article. So what I'm going to do is click from flow data. I want to go to interval flow and I want to select 500K OTM buyer stock only if it's not already selected. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that I'm looking at yesterday's flow, interval flow criteria trades, right? So I want to make sure that I pick this from the drop down. And I like to work from the top to the bottom. So let's go ahead and get started with this TSM 207.5 call for the first expiry in January. So I take a look, definitely a big trade that went off. Remember, the first thing I like to check here is that at least the majority of the open interest stuck around. It looks like it did. I'm going to take a quick glance here to see, and I'll dial that up to 250. Okay, cool. So it looks like at about 2:28 Chicago time, we had these big trades go off, and they filled very close to the ask. And so that's kind of interesting, especially being so short dated and with how performant chips were yesterday. You can just see yesterday it looks like TSM, these contracts were trading for $1.50 at the close on Friday, and then by the time we got to Monday, they were trading for $2.61, all the way well above up to $5. And I think what's interesting here is that this buyer came in at the end of the day, so this is not a buy low type here. It looks like this is kind of a momentum trade, if I had to guess, because the value of this contract has already it's already kind of doubled here. So the fact that this contract has doubled did not slow this trader down. These were purchased into the last half hour of the day at an average fill of 528 when they were trading for 261 in the first 10 minutes of the day. So that's pretty interesting to me. I'm going to add this to my bookmarks watch list, and I'll move on to the next one. It's Johnson & Johnson 155 call for June. Looks like they came in at pretty significant size, 13,000 plus on this trade. They were all filled in this one period, which is to be expected. That's how interval flow works. I like to click and take a look, expand it out to 250. And what I'll do is just kind of scroll my way down, make sure that these started off at the ask. It looks like they did. And then, okay, yeah. And then one big trade filled at $4.10 for the vast majority of that volume. And it stuck around overnight. So I want to add this one to my bookmarks list as well. Okay, now we've got an FCX 45 call for June. Yep, 25,000 plus stuck around into open interest. I want to take a look here, make sure that the first trades were going off at the ask, and it continued to go off at the ask. Okay, so here's our big trade. The vast majority went off in this one transaction at about 1:16 Chicago time, and leading up to then, these trades were all going off at the ask as well. So I can pretty confidently say that this was buying behavior, and this one big clip went off all in one shot, and should be no surprise. I think this one is interesting as well, and so I'm going to add this one to my bookmarks. Alrighty, let's look here. Much shorter dated here over the next group. So Qualcomm, we've got a 157.5 call for the Jan opex. Okay, this is a little more interesting. Obviously, there was one big fill over here, but it looks like there was kind of just consistent buying throughout the day, or perhaps there was consistent trading on this contract throughout the day, followed by some larger transactions around lunchtime. And we can see clearly almost all of this open interest stuck around. So that's definitely very interesting. It would seem like a trader was working into this position rather than getting the whole thing off in one single trade. And this is always interesting to me. Again, I know yesterday semiconductors had a great update. The average fill on this contract increased from $4.60 early in the cash session, and was all the way up closer to $6 into the closing 10 minutes. So this one I'm going to put on hold because this is a little bit harder to ascribe, but I am going to take a look at this first group to make sure that those first transactions were going off at the ask if possible. Okay, interesting. So it looks like these were part of a spread. Okay, very interesting. So this was calendarized. Looks like maybe could be a roll, could be a diagonal. That's not as clear as I would really like it to be, so I'm just going to move on. And though this Qualcomm might be a great trade, I'm just going to skip it, and I'm going to move on to these last two here. So the first one, First Solar 190 call for this upcoming Friday, so very short dated with size. And I want to confirm, yep, certainly quite a bit of that stuck around into open interest. I like to take a look at 3 days if I can to see how the contract price moved. And it looks like the vast majority came off in this 10-minute period, but perhaps the trade actually started a little bit earlier, where I see this column start to perk up, and a lot of these went off on the bid. So I'm gonna, because you can see that they're red compared to green. So this is what I like to do. I want to take a look at this first chunk, and then I'll take a look at the second chunk after that. So I start on my first chunk, I expand my results to 250. I'm going to give myself a little bit of extra room to read these. And okay, so as I'm scrolling all the way down, this period didn't really see, this was kind of intermittent trading happening, but at 9:22 and 12 seconds, so pretty early in the session, is when I started to get a lot of fills happening, and these are overwhelmingly on the bid. So this is perhaps some call selling, and it looks like this was the behavior pretty consistently there for this period of time. Again, we're seeing it kind of shift around as the bid-ask spread moves. It looks like the bid-ask spread is kind of wide, like 26 cents, 26 cents, something like that. And what I want to take a look at now, move those filters out of the way, grab 250. So then 10 minutes later, when we start to get a lot of trades filling right on the ask, and then they continue to fill at the ask. We had a couple of big ones fill right on the ask. This one I'm a little bit up in the air on. It's not extremely clear, especially since those first trades were going off on the bid. But as time went on, they started to fill at the ask. So I'm gonna just kind of leave this one in the maybe pile. And finally, now this 190 call for the Jan opex. I want to take a look for First Solar. Okay. not all the open interest stuck around, but a fair amount, which is interesting. I want to take a look here at this first big column, make sure, and let's go ahead and work our way down. Okay, great. So this one's a little more clear. These trades started to go off around the same time actually as the 190 for this upcoming week. So perhaps we're seeing a roll or a calendar of some kind. Just seeing this trader leg into it and not execute it through the complex order book. And these are pretty clear. They're going off right at the ask. The bid ask spread is wide, so I would be a little more hesitant to ascribe this to buying if the bid ask spread wasn't as wide, and it's going off right on the ask price. So this is pretty clear behavior, buying, urgent buying behavior, if you will. So it looks like this 190 for January is a call buyer getting some size on, and so that I do find interesting. And so I'm going to add this one to my bookmarks watch list as well. And then since I know I'm at the end of my list, I will check the end of my bookmarks options watch list, and I will take a look at the performance as the trading session continues. So the bell rang a couple minutes ago, and you can see I'm starting to get updates to the underlying price, and potentially, depending on whether or not contracts are trading in this particular expiry and strike, I'll start to see updates on these prices as well. If you have any questions about setting up interval flow filters or interpreting the results, please do not hesitate to ask. We have a great and very active questions group inside the Discord, and you can always reach me at dan@unusualwhales.com. Thanks so much.